Welcome to the Podcast for Inquiry, brought to you by the Centre for Inquiry Canada, a national educational charity supporting your community for reason, compassion, and secular humanist values. You have answers, we have questions. I'm your host, Leslie Rosenblood, board member and secular chair for CFIC. Welcome. On today's podcast for Inquiry, I speak with Eunju Kim. Eunju grew up in North Korea. At age 11, she fled the country and began a harrowing 9-year journey that led to her freedom. She is the author of 1,000 Miles to Freedom, My Escape from North Korea. Today, she works for Freedom Speakers International, helping North Korean refugees settle into their new lives in South Korea. Eunju and I speak of many things in our conversation, including what life was like growing up in an authoritarian regime in North Korea, and how worship of the Kim dynasty is very much like a religion. We talk about her escape from North Korea and how much harder it is for people trying to flee the regime today. We talk about her life in South Korea and what she is doing now to help other refugees from North Korea today. I bring you my conversation with Eunju Kim. Eunju Kim, thank you for speaking with me today on Podcast for Inquiry.
Thank you for inviting me to your podcast.
I wanted to speak with you. Last year, we spoke with a Canadian academic who had studied the human rights abuses in North Korea. And when I had the opportunity to speak with you, I was very excited because you have personal experience having grown up in North Korea and having and you lived through a significant part of the Kim dynasty in North Korea. And I read your book, A Thousand Miles to Freedom, and I'm really quite delighted that I and our listeners have the opportunity to learn from you. I'd like to start close to the beginning. I have been fortunate enough to be born and raised in Canada, which is where I am now, and it's been a democratic country for my entire life. I've grown up accustomed to living in a free, liberal country, and I'm wondering if you can sort of, with the perspective that you have now, living in South Korea for a number of years, kind of explain to me and people like me who have no conception of what it's like living under an authoritarian regime like North Korea, where like one wrong word to the wrong person can have catastrophic consequences. What's it like to live and grow up in a place like North Korea?
Yes. As you said, I am Eunju Kim. I was born in North Korea in 1986. And then I escaped North Korea during the huge famine. I mean, the end of the 90s. Then I came to South Korea in 2006, end of 2006. So I lived in South Korea for more longer than any other country. I mean, I lived in North Korea for 12 years, and then I lived in China for 8 years, and then I lived in South Korea I'm living in South Korea for more than 15 years. So, but my identity and my culture and emotional, I don't know, in many ways, my childhood, when I was in North Korea, that kinds of memory and things strongly existed to me. So I think even though I lived in South Korea for like more than 15 years, I believe I'm North Korean. Of course, I'm Korean. If someone say, where are you from? I will say I'm Korean, not South or North.
Right.
So when I was a child in North Korea, I had happy life there before the huge famine. Even
Mm-hmm.
though we were brainwashed about Kim families, our parties, we never asked questioning about those kind of things. We just followed them because South Korea is a country only allows you say yes, not allow you say no, or not allow you to ask them, because your duty is only following them. When I was in second year of the elementary school, we usually go to school. Go After school, we go home by line. At the same time, we will sing songs about Kim family, worship them. One day, I also singing songs by the line on the way to home. Suddenly, I feel dizzy. Then I stopped there. The first thought I got was, I am poor, then I'm hungry, we had no enough food. That was my idea at that moment. That was my thought at that moment. If I go back to home, I could find four bowls of spoon which were exactly same. I mean, one for my mom, one for my daddy, one for my older sister, and one was for me. But whoever got to home the first try to find out the biggest one. Even my mom tried put the same amount to each person, even adults or kids. But who get earlier will find the biggest one. I was same. Then after the first time, didn't know that I had some. After I finished my soup, I had some others. One spoon from my mom, one spoon from my father, one from my older sister's bowl. But later, I knew that if I do that, my mom will knew that because because the soup after time passed, it just became like a jelly. If you had it, it gonna be melt. So it's easily find out someone had it. So after that, I couldn't have any more.
So
Then
even before the famine,
it's
you
during
you
the huge famine.
this
Yeah,
was during the famine.
yeah, during the huge famine. I mean,
Okay.
before my second year of elementary school, actually, I didn't feel hungry.
Hmm.
I never thought we had not enough food, but actually, my mom grew up in Pyongyang. She said that middle 70s, if she go to shop, the public shop, she couldn't find lots of candies. And then from the late 70s, the candies on the shelves is disappearing. In the early 80s, sometimes she couldn't find the candies from the shop, from the public shop. Kind of not market, because North Korean regime at that time not allowed to business, so it's a shop held by the government. So she says huge, not huge famine, but the difficulties started from the late 70s, and the situation getting worse and worse and worse. So it during the 90s it became more than 300만, 3 million of people died during the huge famine in North Korea during the 90s, middle 90s, during the 90s. So it's not suddenly, we didn't suddenly experience the huge famine, so it's slowly developed and get worse. So second year of elementary school, I also felt that, and then some of my friends not coming school because they had no food. Even teachers not coming school to teach students because teacher also had no enough food. So they try to find or do business from some through other way, not being a just being a teacher. They never got enough food from the government, so they have to do something else except teaching students. And then one day my teacher asked us, not ask me, ask whole the class. She said that we will not go take more class today, and then we will go to the bridge to see the public execution. At that time, we were only 9 years old, under 10, but I had to experience I have to saw my first public execution. So the public execution usually happened under the bridge. Then we were really small kids. So teacher bring us to the over the bridge, and she asked to us watch that. Watching public execution is not included in education, but our teacher school did it as a kind of education, part of the education. They use the public education to educate the students, even under 10 years
Was it
old.
intended as a lesson, like if you don't behave, or this is what happens to bad people?
Yes, she will not. She never say that. But she just make us to watch that. The purpose is make student or make people too afraid of being that kind of person. So just follow the party or things, and not to do things that the government not allow. So, that's a way make people to be afraid of our party, our government, our
Hmm.
leader, because Kim at that time after Kim Il Sung died, and then Kim Jong Il said that let people hear the gunshot. Because of the huge famine, the social crime increased a lot. So sometimes it's economical crime, but other case, sometimes it's people killing others because of some 30 kilogram of corn, just for 30 kilogram of corn, or one case was a man stole a cow from the farm, and he had it, so he had to be executed in a public. So later I came to South Korea, I realized that in North Korea, human beings' life is, animals' life is worse than human beings' life, because the man was publicly executed because he had a cow. He stole a cow. He had, of course, in North Korea, the cow is a really important tool to farming. But even though human had to die because of a cow, they kill a man because of the animal. Then later, people go mountain to have some food. Try to find something to eat. So one of
Hmm.
our native, whose age was older than me at that time, he went to mountain. He tried to find something to eat, but he only could find some mushroom, some poisoned mushroom, and he get it to his home, and then he told that to his family. He said that I will have it first. If I don't die, then you have it. If I die, please don't have it.
Don't.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
that's
And
awful.
yeah, he had it because there is no food, so people
Yes.
have to find something to eat. Even they know it's poisoned mushroom, but they had to try to survive because that could be the only food they could have. Yeah,
So, Anju, you mentioned a few minutes ago that living in North Korea, you were brainwashed about the Kim family. Now,
yeah,
you're describing how hard it was for your family with one bowl of soup for each member of your family, and that actually that made you relatively fortunate because so many others that you were talking about had nothing at all to eat, and were resorting to stealing or eating what might be and turned out to be poisonous mushrooms just to have something to eat. So what how did you sort of reconcile what you were told about the Kim dynasty and the fact that you and almost everyone around you was starving to death? What did you think about the ruling
Situation.
party and about the great leader or the dear leader
Uh,
of North Korea,
mhm.
given your actual life circumstances?
I mean, we were brainwashed even before we were born. I like to say in that way because in North Korea, more than 90% of song is about our party and about our leaders. So when I was in my mom's stomach, I have to listen about the Kim family's songs, the worship about Kim family. In that way, we were brainwashed from before we were born. Then we never ever could say something of some bad thing about our leaders, and the kids had to remember our leader's birthday first, then our parents. And we have to say we used to say thank you to our leaders before thank to our parents. Our leader was our grandfather, great father.
It almost sounds like
Religious.
the closest thing I can think of, like from my experience, is like when you're talking about thanking the leader, it's almost like God, like
Yeah, yeah, right.
you're thanking God. Like are the Kims, is the leader analogous to a god, even though it's not strictly a religion, it's a
Yeah,
political
yeah, yeah.
dynasty.
Oh, they say religious is drug. Educate in that way, even though they say in North Korea people have the freedom of religious, but actually there is no freedom of the religious in North Korea. But the system, the way they educating his people, their people, is just like religious. I mean, they only have to believe their party, their leader, and they have that what our leader do is all right, so we can't ask question to them. We only allowed to follow them. We educated in that way. We grow up in that way. So we never have had a question for them. So we just believed them. And during the huge famine, the party, the regime said that the reason why we having so difficult time is because U.S. are our biggest enemy because of the United States, and sometimes because of Japan.
Hmm.
Because our leaders, the party will say that they try to get some rice or corn from other country. Then the U.S. bombed our ship. So all the corn and rice just fell into the sea.
Ah, yeah.
Or they say something like that. We try to grow up some corn and rice, then the spice got some bad seed, change
Hmm.
with some bad seed. So the farming, the harvest it wasn't successful because of
Right,
the
but it was
spice.
always because of the bad acts of the foreign nations that were conspiring against the good and noble North Korean people.
Yeah, our reader was always trying hard for his people.
Right.
That's what we knew. But
Hmm.
we were poor because of our enemy, not because of our leader. So our leader also strongly fight with them. We have to. That's what. That was our thought, and the textbook of our schools sometimes shows a South Korean girl try shoot for American soldier. On the textbook, they will show that kind of thing, and they say, "Let's see how poor South Korean girls are. So we have to unify to save this kind of kid." But the funny thing is that these days they delete that kind of picture from the textbook because people know South Korea is richer than North Korea. In North Korea, North Korea knows that South Korea is South Korea having better life than North Korea, so they
Okay.
just cannot lie anymore in that way. So they deal.
I want to come. I want to come back to that, to the way it is today. But for the moment, I want to. You mentioned in your book that there was someone in your neighborhood called the Inmin Banjang, and I apologize if I'm saying that, if my pronunciation is wrong.
Your
But
pronunciation is really great. Great.
well, thank you. But you said that you and everyone in your neighborhood were terrified of the Inmin Banjang, and can you tell us who the Inmin Banjang was and why it was such a scary person for
Okay.
you?
For example, 이민반장 usually control or check more like 30 of the family, 30 families. She will check and telling you if you do something good or bad, and also she will take the Kim Il Sung and Kim Jong Il's photo frame. I mean, in North Korea, every house or room or apartment, there should be photo frame about Kim Il Sung, Kim Jong Il. I think these days maybe Kim Jong Un too. Then if the photo frame get dirtied, it means you are not lawyer anymore. So you will go somewhere and take some education about our leaders and about your duties, things, about my duties. So Inmin Banjang is kind of a stressing person to everyone because she's checking you. And even not I mean, except Imin Banjang, in North Korea, people usually say that if three people gathered, there will be spy.
That
If,
sounds that sounds a lot. I'm just trying to draw a parallel between what you're describing. That sounds a lot like the Stasi in East Germany. They were kind of the internal police to make sure that people in East Germany were loyal to the Soviet Union. I don't know if that's something that you're familiar with, but
I believe it's stronger than that
okay.
Eastern German situation. I believe so because North Korea never. If you get information from outside of the world, then you get punished. Even with the fact you knew that you did nothing, but you knew that can be your fault. So
So just having any knowledge of the outside world
yeah, yeah, yeah,
was
yeah.
punishable. Was it formally a crime, or was it just punishable because it was a bad
Sometimes it
thing?
could be a political crime.
Okay, it was actually a crime to have
Yeah,
knowledge of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the
For
outside,
example,
the world beyond North Korea.
yeah, yeah. For example, you might say, "Oh, in China, people can travel without any permission." If you say that, oh, it sounds good. If you say in that way, you could be crimed in a politically.
So it's the famine, and you and your family have just barely enough to eat,
Uh-huh.
but you're being told that the party and the Kim dynasty are doing everything they can, and they're just fighting against an evil world that's conspiring against you. What compelled you to try and leave North Korea with your sister and your mother? If you thought that you know that That everyone is trying to help, and it's just really an impossible situation that North Korea is in. What compelled you to try and leave?
I mean, our readers are great, but the fact is, I'm hungry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
human being have to survive. You can't. I saw many people just dying during the huge famine because more like almost more than whole all the families in North Korea rely to the supply from the government before, but during the huge famine they almost stopped supplying any food to the people, and then they also not allow people to do business. Then people couldn't find any way to survive, couldn't find any way to get some food from any other places. So they at home, they just waited to die. So they die. Our case also, usually when, before we escaping from North Korea, not only me, I think many people had that idea. I mean, next time gonna be me. The dead person, next dead person going, my that's me. Next time it's my turn, or yeah, everyone had that thought. We also tried to die at our home. My mom, when I was 11, my mom left home to find some food from other city with my older sister. She said that she will come home after 3 days, or if longest that could take 3 days. But after 6 days she didn't come home. Then I thought my mom abandoned me, so I had to write a will. That's my book starts.
Yes.
That my book starts at that point. uh, then my mom came home after 6 days, and what she said was, "Let's die together." So we tried to die without doing nothing, just waiting to die, but we couldn't. So we wake up, we sold our leader's photo frame in the market, and we had a 1 year street bagel life, and stealing things from farm, from others, sometimes collect some wood from mountain, we sell that in the market. But winter came, we can't steal things from farm because farm also have nothing, and you can't go to mountain to collect some wood, it's covered with snow. So life got worse and really difficult to survive. And then that's why we decide to leave. It's not about our leader, it's only about to keep our life. So
Right. It was
some people say you made a good choice to us. They say escaping from North Korea is a good choice, but actually we had no choice. That was only way to survive. We escaped only to survive, nothing else. Not about leaders, not about the system of freedom. We even didn't think about the freedom. We only thought about our stomach and our mouths, our hungry. So yeah,
right.
that's why.
Now, leaving North Korea. I mean, then and now is no simple task. In fact, a large amount of the resources of the government go to preventing people from leaving, and the border between North Korea and South Korea is one of the most heavily fortified and militarized
Places.
borders of the world.
Yeah, yeah.
So how is it that a mother and her two young daughters were able to leave a country that works very, very hard to ensure that nobody can leave?
Ah, it's yeah. What you say is actually right, but it depends on the period. The escaping situation changed in many ways.
Okay.
During we are escaping, when we are escaping from North Korea, without any money, it was possible because during the dark night, we can run to the Tuman River. Tuman River actually is the border between China and North Korea. So we can cross the border, cross the Tuman River, then we can successfully make our escaping. However, these days, if you don't have money, it's almost impossible to escape from North, because North Korean regime Kim Jong-un is not only made the big plans between South Korea and North Korea, he also made electronic city plans between China and North Korea across the border. So, so if you want to make your escaping successfully, you have to have a broker or you have to pay money to the soldiers. But it costs really a lot. And Kim Jong-un, the regime said that to the soldiers, if anyone who wants to escape, so they pay money to you, then you take the money. And then you can have that money and then call to the police or call us, catch them. Before, if soldiers having money from people, that was illegal. So they can take the money and make them escape to China. But these days, if you pay money to the soldiers can get the money and also they can catch you. So the situation and the risk get much the risk you have to take is get worse and bad. So these days only people who have money can escape from North Korea. But when I was in North Korea, if you decide to escape, even though it's really it takes, you have to take the risk of your life if you decide to escaping, because if soldiers find you, they will ask you to stop. If you don't stop, after they shot you, after they say stop for 3 times, then they will shoot you. So if you Googling, you can find that body on Tuman River there. And Tuman River is not really easy to cross sometimes. So if you are not really good at swimming, you will not make your escaping successfully. So it's the situation getting worse, and the situation also changed, and the money you have paid to the broker, to the soldiers, are really increased in high level. So it's really difficult to make escaping from North Korea. So when I came to South Korea, the new settling refugees are like around 200 in every month, more than 200 refugees settled in South Korea in every month. But these days, less than 20.
Less than 20 in a month, so it's like 90% reduction.
More than 90%. Yeah.
Right. So that's because the border has been tightened to such an extent.
And also because of COVID.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But
is it South Korea that's not letting people in, or is it North Korea that's not letting people out?
North Korea and China's problem. South Korea never asked them not to come. Always welcome. Okay. Yeah, but the global situation, and also the border. After Kim Jong-un got power, less people came to South Korea because escaping from North Korea became more difficult.
It's in your book, 1,000 Miles to Freedom. You describe your own journey, and it was anything but straightforward. Your route from North Korea into China, back to North Korea, back into China, with the people that you had to stay with before ultimately you escaped to South Korea. One of the things that surprised me, well, there was a lot of things that surprised me, but one of the things that really stuck with me was that when you finally did get to South Korea, you described that in one sense that you were welcomed, but in another, South Korea was very suspicious, almost paranoid about you because they didn't know if you or any of the refugees that you were with were genuinely trying to escape North Korea or if you were North Korean spies.
Yeah.
Can you talk about whether South Korea was were they being paranoid or was this a is this a justified fear, and how they tried to separate the people that were genuinely trying to escape and those that might have had ulterior or nefarious motives for coming into South Korea?
I mean, it depends on person. Depends on person. They have different view about refugees. I mean, some people will think you are spy, so they will afraid of you and hate you. And some people will think you as the same of the North Korean regime. Whenever Kim Jong Un tries nuclear tests the missile, they hate refugees more. Then and also, even you are really wanted to escape from North Korea, even though you are the victim of the North Korean regime, then even though they knew that, they hate you or they don't welcome you because they think North Korean refugees are the burden of this society. Because we come to South Korea with empty hand. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, they have to help us. In that way, they don't waste. Some people don't waste the tax for the refugees or something. Yeah, really. Yeah. So there are many different ways, and some people might think. I mean, the media, there are many successful refugees in South Korea who already had doctor degree or who doing like a big business on lots of money, who had lots of money. But these kinds of things not get focused from the media, but only bad things. For example, refugee had drug or refugee killed someone, like refugee made some trouble. That kind of news get issued among the society to the people. So
That's something I think that South Korea and Canada and the United States have in common, was that the focus on the bad things and not
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. So
not
you,
not so much on the good.
yeah. So usually people had no chance to really meet a refugee in their life because we are only 30,000 of refugees in Saturday in South Korea compared to how the population is less than 1%. So many people almost had no chance to meet refugees, North Korean refugees. So they only see the media, only watch the news about nuclear Kim Jong Un or some crime about the refugees things. So in that way, they have negative image about refugees. So depends on personal thought and experience. The way they blaming North Korean refugees is also different. So we could say we are the minority of the minority in South Korea because some refugees even say they are Korean Chinese because it's better than that they say I am from North Korea.
And do the two Korea, does North and South Korea, is it the same language, or did you have to learn a different Korean language when you got to South
Oh,
Korea?
we say we share the same culture and use same language, but more than 70 years we separated. Our culture is totally different. Even though we use Korean, refugees still experience the difficulties when they communicating with the South Korean when they just came to South Korea because South Korea use lots of Konglish, Korean English on the street. For example, one of my friends, actually we went to the same college, But after he came to South Korea, he just applied for the college and he take the class in the college. But teacher asked him to write 1 page of the report. Then he didn't know what's a report. And professor said that deadline. He don't know what's deadline in English because we use deadline report. The professor used that, not Korean.
The English words, yeah.
Yeah, English words, but everyone knows it, so it doesn't
Right.
matter. But the refugee, they don't know it. Some of them know, but many of them don't know, and they just came to South Korea. So he didn't do it. And the professor asked him, "Why you don't email me about your report?" And then he said, "What's report? What I have to do? Something happens in that, right?" Even Korean, for example, friends. In North Korea, we say 동무. But in South Korea, says 친구. To 동무 and 친구 is understandable as friend, but if you say 동무 in South Korea, people will see you in a strange way. You will become a stranger. So even we share says that we share same culture and use same language, but culture different. Even we have difficulties when we communicating with South Korea at the first time. Yeah. So I like to say North Korean refugees at the first time they came to South Korea is just like a baby who's learning the step. We have to learn, and even if how small it is, it's new to us. We have to learn to survive in South Korea.
Yeah, it's an entirely different way of life, and I can only imagine the cultural differences. Having grown up in North Korea, where the government or the party provides everything, and it's the leader that provides everything, and then you come to South Korea, and it's a market economy, and it's a democracy, and it's a completely different way of thinking about how society is structured.
Yes.
People talk about culture shock when they travel from one country to another, and and there's different ways in which people interact. But for you, the differences must have been stark, and it wasn't you weren't traveling for leisure. This was an entirely new home for you, and you had to adapt to that. Was that transition, given everything that you had been through, extremely difficult? And how did you manage? You seem to have done very well, but that's with the benefit of many years later.
I mean, I didn't directly come to South Korea from North Korea. I lived in China almost for 8 years. So I learned, I watched many things about South Korea when I was in China. And also, China also kind of capitalism society. Even they say they are communism, but it's kind of people do business and things. So when I came to South Korea, there wasn't a big shocking thing to me.
Okay.
Only the cost of life was too expensive to me compared to China. So I had to walk for 40 minutes, not taking a bus. When I go home, I go to school. So sometimes I feel like the cost of bus, the fee of the bus is too expensive to me. So I had to walk for several hours sometimes. But to the people who just came to South Korea from North Korea, they feel more difficulties. I mean, actually, the environment difficulties things could be overcome by learning. But people, the thing that people feel difficult actually is not the culture or the kinds of things. I mean, they feel loneliness. They had no friends, no family here, and everything they have to learn in a new way. And they had also what they learned here in South Korea can't use it anymore. People ask you forget it and ask you to become a new person. Of course, and also South Korea. When refugees came to South Korea, they educating refugees about South Korean society, culture, economic thing, and many things. But the problem is the education is one-way education. They not actually pay attention or emphasize on educating the original South Korean about the refugees. So
Right.
they have no chance to understand about refugees. Only refugees had to understand South Korea, have to learn new things. So their identity or many things have to be ignored by others. They have to be a new person, but my past, because of the past, so may some I don't have to hold my past forever, but I think I haven't to forget it forever too, because my past also part of me.
Yes, of
But
course.
here, yeah, but here in South Korea, many refugees ask to be forgotten or release about their past. Totally, they ask to be a totally new person in South Korea. So these kinds of things make them too difficult to adjusting in South Korea. So really a few of them thinking to go back to North Korea. Yeah.
So I see that you are uh, in in front of Freedom Speakers International, and I know that
Yeah.
you work for them.
Mhm.
Can you tell us what Freedom Speakers International is and what they're trying to achieve, what you're trying to achieve?
Yes, we could mainly help refugees improve their English speech skill.
Okay.
So we try to give them chance to be a global member, global leaders, and we try to give chance them to share their stories in English to the global society. It somehow helps themselves to developing and also take duty as a refugee in South Korea because it's a kind of way informing to the people about North Korea. So before that, our purpose is empowering North Korean refugees by by teaching English. So we making like a one-on-one mentoring English with English speakers and refugees. Made together. Before COVID, we studied English face to face, but after COVID, we usually study through the Zoom.
Right. Of
Yeah,
course.
and then we also having like a English speech contest twice a year. So refugees can apply for the speech contest, and they can prepare for like less than 10 minutes script to speak to the audience, to the people, and judges will judging them, and then yeah, we give them for their effort, prize for their effort. And then we also have another program is giving speech to the foreigners in South Korea. So the foreigner who based in South Korea, usually Americans, and then
Hmm.
they will visit the DMZ, and then after the DMZ, they will meet a refugee, and they will listen to from him or she from. So we having like a first programs. One is a mentoring program. The other one is English speech contest, and one other is English speech and contest and mentoring. Another one is English publication.
Okay. I'll put a link to Freedom Speakers International in the show notes. So if anyone wants to find out more or maybe even contribute to the organization,
Oh, that will
there's
be great.
there's there's a link in the show notes so that
Um,
you can find out more.
um,
Just like let's sort of zoom out from your personal story and big picture. Uh, uh, do you want to see one Korea, North and South,
wow.
reunited again, or is that too much to imagine?
Oh, if we can reunite, that will be great. But in my opinion, it sounds really difficult because in South Korea, like 30 years ago, surveyed to the people, asking them, when do you think we can reunite? And people said that may after 15 years ago, after 15 years. Then
Hmm.
after 15 years pass, asked the same question to the people, then people say the answered the same question, maybe after 15 years later. But
Oh,
if you ask now, I'm going to make people say the same thing, but it never happens.
it's always 15 years in the future and
Yeah,
never
yeah.
actually
So
arrives.
we don't know. I heard that when the Soviet Union collapsed,
Hmm.
also there were no one exactly could guess or think about, make opinion about that. So I think North Korea also might can collapse just suddenly one day, but who knows? We never knows. So my goal, my wish is that not unification, but the North Korean who lives in North Korea could enjoy life like South Korean. That's gonna be enough to me.
Right. So just to
Yeah,
have
yeah,
a good quality of life and to
yeah,
live
yeah.
under freedom, or just to have enough to eat.
Yeah, yeah. So one of my best friends who still lives in North Korea, I just wish she could have the same life, same quality of life that I have.
And are you able to contact or to be in touch in any way with your best friend in North Korea?
Actually, we don't, but other refugees, many of them do. But
Hmm.
the only contact it costs a lot, and then whenever you contact your family in North Korea, they will ask you money every moment wanna be. So it sometimes make really difficult or sad to the refugees who settled in South Korea because when they asking always it's emergency. But the money is limited in South Korea. I mean, we came to South Korea with empty hand and we have to work for the money and we have to keep our life in South Korea too with that money. But our family in North Korea always asking money, never, yeah, yeah. So their requirement is keep coming. So sometimes make refugees difficult to live just because their family in North Korea. Yeah, so I like to say that the escaping from North Korea is not finished to the refugees. It could
Right.
be finished. It could be finished when the North Korean can freely come to South Korea, or it could be finished when South Korean freely go to North Korea. Yeah.
Yeah, but everything that I understand about the North Korean dynasty, Kim dynasty, is that if people could freely enter and leave, the government and the party would
We're
not
not
would
never
not
ever.
survive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why they strongly control their border and their people. They want to
Right.
hold the power forever. But whenever he makes his people's life better, then he has no space to stay.
Well, Eunju Kim, thank you. This has been fascinating. I'm very happy that you were able to leave, and I enormously respect your work in helping others who have also managed to escape North Korea. Do you have any last thoughts for our listeners today?
Uh, I don't know. I could explain it in a correct way, but this is from one of my other refugees. He said that the reason how North Korean government can stable for so longer, stably, I mean, stable can be so longer just because the people outside the world sees North Korea as a normal country. When we see North Korea, we have to see it in a different way. It's really different with what the society and the system and the things is can't comparable with the outside of the world. For example, I mean, one of the refugees, she escaped North Korea and came to South Korea. She left his kids in North Korea, her kids in North Korea. Then
Mm-hmm.
once she had a chance to share her story to the people in South Korea, after she talked about her kids in North Korea, one audience uh, asked her, "Don't you feel sorry to your kids? Because not sorry, don't you shame because you left your kids in North Korea?" It sounds like she abandoned her kids. She have to feel sorry or something. Yeah, of course, she will feel sorry, things, but
Mm-hmm.
it hurts her a lot. The
Yes.
reason why escaping from North is for her kids. She have to get some money from China to make to keep her kids' life in North Korea. And she came here in South Korea. She always tried to sending money to North Korea for their kids too. But people never understand the situation. They just thinking they escaped for their personal better life. They abandoned their kids. But in North Korea, you have to escape to if you want to save your kids. So
Yes.
I
And
just wish,
it's
yeah,
how awful it is that so many people have to face such a terrible choice.
yeah. So I
Well,
wish when people seeing North Korea, they have seen different way. One is regime, and one is the other one. The other side is people, and maybe there are some bad people in North Korea helping the regime sustainable, but many of them are victim of the regime. When they escaping, it's not only for their better life, also for their families and things. They have no choice to for that. So I wish people when they just blaming the left before they blaming the refugees, they had to try to understand the situation in North Korea.
well, Eunju Kim, thank you so much for speaking with me today. If any listeners want to find out more about your story, I do recommend "A Thousand Miles to Freedom: My Escape from North Korea." We touched briefly on a lot of the topics in here, but of course, the book gets into uh, describes it more fully. Thank you for speaking with me and sharing with me your thoughts and experiences. It's
Thank you
been a
so
great
much
pleasure speaking
for
with you.
yeah, thank you so much for inviting me and